Good morning, I'm Kristine. Today we're going to be speaking to Paul Valmadre. Paul is a very well-known and very recognized chartered and registered accountant, an expert in the management rights industry. Now, Valmadre Accountants has been providing accounting and taxation services to small businesses for over 21 years. And there are companies involved in preparing your sales figures. And if you're thinking about buying on the other side, they're very thorough when it comes to verification of sales figures. They're also engaged in the day-to-day stuff, which includes audits for rental trust accounts, bookkeeping services, BAS preparation and lodgement, and in general, all things tax. Okay, so here to give us access to his vast knowledge and experience is Paul Valmadre. Good morning, Paul.
Good morning, Kristine, and thank you very much for that introduction. Over the last 21 years, we have been involved with not only the smallest of management rights, but right through to the largest, both holiday and permanent complexes.
That's good to know, Paul, because frankly, in the industry, we sort of put you up there in the clouds among the gods because you seem to be exceptionally competent, well-known, that even the small people seem a little intimidated to approach your company.
No one is ever too small to walk through that door. I mean, everybody has to start somewhere, and a lot of people, when they get to management rights, have never been in business before. So our services have been tailored to help those people out who have never had the experience of running their own business, not knowing bookkeeping, not knowing BAS, not even knowing how to operate a rental trust account. So we've handled it all, as I said, from the smallest through to the largest.
That's fantastic. And quite frankly, if you're actually beginning in this industry, if there's anybody to get knowledge from, it's an expert like Paul.
We actually engage people on staff who have worked in management rights as well. So therefore, when there is an issue, they get to talk to people who have had that same experience as them.
Okay, well, thanks for that, Paul. Now, first question I have about preparing a business for sale is, what are the key factors behind it?
Kristine, in a management rights business, it is broken up into basically three components. There's the property management component, which is what I deal with as the accountant. There is the caretaking agreement, which no doubt Frank Higginson as a lawyer will comment on. And then there's the unit of accommodation, which Chris Kennedy as a valuer will comment on. So what is actually involved in the property So what is the specific parts of the property manager business that I look at when we want to put this business on the market?
Exactly.
So time is always of the essence. So there's no point when you decide to contact Kristine and say, I want to sell my business. No, you've got to start before that. And the first thing you should do is pull out your PAMD letting agreements. Make sure you've got one for every property.
Yes.
Make sure it's completed correctly and it's signed off in all the right areas. If you're going to go to the market, you've got to have your accounting records up to date at all times, because you never know when you're going to walk through that door with a contract signed, ready to go.
Yes.
And as we know, once that contract is signed, the clock is ticking. So then is not the time to bring your accounting records up to date.
Yes.
So at all times, every month, up to date. The other thing too then, of course, is you have to determine what your net profit is.
Yes.
So off to your accountant to work that out, to work out what is the net profit of this business, so we can work out what is the selling price of the business.
Paul, if everybody followed your advice, you'd be making my job a whole lot easier. But give them a clue about why exactly you need to prepare your sales figures prior to.
In selling any business, whether it's management rights or a news agency or a cafe or whatever, the figures that we use for selling a business are not the ones we use to lodge the tax return. So we take those figures that you use to prepare your tax return, but we want to go through them to determine what is the core income, what is the core expenditure of that business. So therefore we have to prepare what we call a selling income and expenditure statement. So as I said, that will determine the net profit, and of course that's what everybody wants to know, is how much is this business making, and on a day-to-day basis. And also, of course, from there, we use that net profit to determine what is going to be the selling price of the business. So, unfortunately, unless you go through that process, you're not going to come up with what is your optimum selling price of the business. If you don't do it, you may overprice it, which means you won't get a buyer. You may underprice it, which means you will never realise the potential of your business. a net profit and a selling price that is spot on the mark will hopefully turn into a very quick sale.
Excellent advice again. Paul, you were talking about core business. You know, you and I have been through situations where I present a sales figures of some other company, and you'll pick out things that basically other vendors are hoping to get paid for, but in fact they're not core business. Real estate sales, perhaps?
Yes, exactly. I mean, not all income, whilst it's income of the business as the person is now running it, is not the income we want to see for selling purposes. What we are talking about here, because as you just pointed out, income from selling, commissions from selling of units in the complex may be income of the business, but it's not income from property management. And what we are selling here is a property management and caretaking business. Commission income from outside that, from property sales, is not the core income of the business. Similarly, other income they may earn will be excluded. So we look at, as I said, what falls under that umbrella of property management and caretaking, and we only include that income. And of course, we only include 12 months.
That's true too.
And we ignore GST because GST is not income of the business.
That's an important fact.
Absolutely.
Okay, Paul, we've talked about checking on the income. How about the expenses?
Yep. Christine, similarly to any business that is put up for sale, we have to go through, because what we are looking at is the core income and core expenses. The expenses that are there from the normal everyday trading activities of this business. So anything that's extraordinary to that, we will cut out. Anything that is personal to the particular vendor, we will exclude. And personal expenditure can include accounting fees. I mean, not everybody's accounting fees are going to be the same from one person to the other.
You're correct.
So therefore, you might have a person who is very reliant upon their accountant to do everything, and their accounting fees will be much higher than somebody who has a probably very good understanding of bookkeeping and that, and uses their accountant a lot less. So this is where that thing about the industry averages comes in. And I only look to bring in industry averages on things where the type of expenditure could involve personal expenditure, such as accounting fees, motor vehicle,
Exactly right.
telephone maybe. So we look at those items. We also would look at personal decisions as to how they run their business. So, for example, the classic is always what wages are needed to run a management rights business. The very basis of buying into a management rights business, we assume that a husband and wife team, or at least a two-person management team, will be active in the day-to-day operations of that business. So therefore, we don't have to factor in wages to cover them. Yes. They're there. It's what we can see and what we can determine or perceive is needed over and above what those people will need to employ or contract to run that business. However, there may be more wages again because somebody says, I want to play golf on Thursday afternoons. So therefore they will engage or employ people to come in and be there in the business to cover for them.
But that's more a lifestyle choice.
That's a lifestyle choice. So once again, that's what we consider be abnormal to that business, and therefore we would exclude that type of expenditure.
Okay, so you'd be there to actually advise them to include or exclude things that wouldn't be part of the core business.
Correct.
And you'd be the best person for it. Now tell me, Paul, who exactly would be the best person to create these sales figures?
Well, the best person is obviously going to be your accountant. But let me just qualify that. Not all accountants know how to determine income and expenditure. Yes. But not every accountant has experience in management rights. So therefore, it's best that if
Such an important issue there.
So it's important that they consult with somebody who has that experience. They're going to get the result right, hopefully right, and get to it quicker. And present, not only that, but present the figures in such a way that you selling the business will be able to market the business well, that the accountant for the purchaser will be able to interpret and verify. Exactly. And also, not only does it go beyond that, but the financial institutions and the valuer also rely upon the verification report and the proper dissection of income and expenditure to do their final checks and tests on whether or not this is a good business.
I cannot enforce that fact more strongly to get an industry expert, which Paul really is. He and I were involved in a negotiation, a transaction not too long ago, where the other accountant actually put, and he was a registered, qualified accountant, but not an industry specialist. He hid away our letting fees in sundry. Paul, would that have happened in your case?
No, it doesn't, because we know that that is one of the core items of income.
Yes.
Yeah, letting fees from letting of properties. So, you know, we would be showing that definitely as a separate item, because, you know, that's going to give us a bit of a health check on this business or the operation of this business. Not seeing that there is questioning maybe the how this manager is really running that business, and if it's in sundries, well, it just may get ignored altogether.
Which is exactly what happened, but you came to save the day. Thank you for that. Paul, so often when I walk into a complex, they'll come in and say, yes, I'm ready to sell, I'm ready to get on the market and really be aggressive about selling. But of course, prior to that, they haven't exactly prepared their complex. Is it wise for them to do it when they want to sell, or is there another time that they should actually come see you?
Well, a bit like selling real estate, position. When you're selling your business, it's all about preparation. The longer you spend preparing your business for sale, the better it's going to be. Now, you don't want to start probably too earlier than 12 months out, but sometime around about 12 months, 6 months out is a good time to start. That way it takes the pressure off you, the manager, selling the business, to have all your ducks lined up. Because if you have to go out and send out new letting agreements or PAMD letting agreements because you don't have them on file or they're not signed off, hey, 6 months out is going to give you that opportunity. The day before the accountant turns up to do the verification is not the time to do it.
And neither is it after you have gone to contract.
No, that's definitely not the time.
Yes.
So, you know, that's just a classic of one that can take a bit of time. But also, too, to start, you know, getting your records in order so that they're all going to be there. As I said, when the contract is signed, time is of the essence. Everything should be ready. Talk to your accountant. What do I need to have ready? When do I have to have it ready? How often should we do figures? That sort of thing. Yeah, more time spent on that 12 months out. Start thinking about it 6 months out. Definitely you should be really getting prepared. Even starting talking to the broker a bit earlier so that they can get some idea of what you're up to, and you know, may help also turn that into a very, very short-term contract and on the market and away.
That's something I love about this industry. Every industry specialist out there, from agents to solicitors to accountants, we're all allies to the managers, to getting a sale accomplished for them and getting it across. So whether it's now or a year before that you're thinking about selling, it really is time to talk to the specialist, just to let them know or to ask advice on how to properly prepare.
One other thing, Kristine, an extension of, you know, how soon should I prepare for selling the business is how often should I get my selling figures done? You know, we'd all like to only have to do selling figures once.
Yes.
But that is not always the case. And once you do those selling figures, they have a shelf life of between 3 to 6 months. Both the valuers and the financial institutions and even purchasers, prospective purchasers, would recognise that once figures are getting to 6 months old, they have run out of their use-by shelf life. And it's going to be necessary to update those figures. So just be aware that you know, any potential seller out there, that when they get these figures done, unfortunately it may not be the last time they get them done, and if they haven't unfortunately got a sale over, at least to paper, if inside 6 months, then they should consider about getting them updated.
That's a good point. Actually, I'm involved in a sale right now, and this is pretty common with a lot of complexes that have been for sale for a while. The numbers these past few months have been really coming on strong. So to pay for another set of sales figures actually pays the dividends to itself, because the numbers are so much better, you'll make it in the sale.
Yes, that's right. That's right.
Just to reflect the better numbers.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, one thing that too is unique about management rights is that we don't look back over financial years, we look back over the last 12 months.
Exactly right.
And that, as I said, when we started out talking this morning, I said keep your accounting, bookkeeping figures up to date at all times, because we are, as the verifying accountant coming in, he's going to look back at the 12 months just finished, not the last financial year.
Okay, Paul, to wrap this up, is there anything else a seller should be on the lookout for?
Absolutely. I mean, everybody has to remember that in preparing the selling figures and even doing the verification, no two accountants, no two reporting periods are going to be exactly the same. So we're always going to get a different result. So, we have to be prepared for that. I always like the analogy, all zebras are black and white, but no two zebras are the same.
I like that.
And the other two things, be prepared for extenuating circumstances.
Yes.
From the time that you maybe sign that contract, or at least put it on the market, to when you get that verification happens, could be a matter of months.
Yes.
And numbers do change. Absolutely. So be prepared that you're not going to get exactly that net profit in the verification that we got in the selling figures. So, and things do change over time. Years ago, we never had internet expenses.
This is true.
Now we do. So, as I said, technology is bringing back changes in the industry. It's also going to bring about changes in your income, changes in your expenses. Just because what you had there or didn't have there when you bought it doesn't mean that it's not the norm now when you come to sell it.
Again, great advice. So from Paul, basically, I think the gist of that conversation was begin with the end in mind. Do consult with Paul or your accountant and sit down with him. If you're thinking about selling now or in a year, it is just the safest bet to get good advice. And that's exactly what we had today from you, Paul. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Kristine. Thanks for the opportunity to have this discussion with you.
We appreciate it. Thank you.